you feel like being around people is just too hard, like you wish you could just take yourself off to some magical island where you didn't have to people at all and you could just get away from all this overwhelming, energy that you feel from everyone else, then you are not alone. This video is for you if you feel that way, but you also want to untangle yourself from that mess. You know that you can't just disengage from society. Maybe you have a spouse that you love, children that you love, friends and family, and maybe you like your work, but you just find this whole thing just too hard. And so you have this fantasy that you could take yourself off to an island and it would magically make everything better. But you know that doesn't work in the real world. So if you want a solution to that and you want to look at it in the context of human design, then let's talk about that. I'm Carolyn Southwell. I help people know themselves, love who they are, and become the person they were born to be. And primarily, I use two tools to do that: human design and a deconditioning tool that I developed called trauma-informed tapping. So let's look at the question that came in from somebody in the community, and I'm actually going to read the question out directly. It said, "It would be very helpful to know how to untangle yourself. I feel crushed down by my family. I always want to be alone on an island or just in my house without anyone else." Tell me in the comments if you feel the same way. But it seems impossible, they say. I feel invaded by others' energy. Whoa, this is actually my bitterness point. So this was a projector who's feeling bitter by feeling invaded by everyone else's energy. Thank you for bringing the space, they said. You are welcome. If you are watching this video, you are welcome. It is my divine pleasure. Okay, so I'm looking down at my notes. No more long scripts on my phone. We've just got some notes on paper. So there's two main reasons that you are having this experience, if you are this person or like this person, where you're feeling invaded by other people's energy and crushed down by life like it's all too hard. I want to be on an island, but I have to be in the world. How do I do that? Okay, so let's talk about that. Firstly, this question was asked by a projector, but I want you to know that this applies to all human design types. And specifically, while there are like teeny tiny spots around the chart where people can experience more sensitivity than others, there is a broad thing that is like the biggest thing to look at, and that is how much openness you have in your design. Now, openness is just a term that says how much white is in your chart. Now, if you're a reflector, you are going to have all 9 centers white. So centers, if you haven't heard the term before, are those geometric shapes, those squares and triangles and the diamond, right? They are called centers. They're kind of like chakras, if you're familiar with the Hindu chakra system. Now, if you have a lot of those open, and you could be a projector, a generator, a manifesting generator, or a manifester, and still have just 2 centers defined or colored in, and that would leave you with 7 centers that were open or undefined, where you would be receiving energy from the people around you all the frickin' time. And that can be a lot. That can be a lot. So from a human design perspective, whether you're a reflector with all 9 centers open, but thankfully a more protective aura, so the reflector receives a lot of information from other people, but with a little bit of a buffer. They've got a little bit of a different kind of aura that acts as a protector. But you could be any of the other types and have just 2, or even if you had 3 or 4, the more centers that you have undefined white in your chart, the more this video is going to apply to you. A quick revision if you're aware of this, and a quick lesson if you're not. Where you have definition in your chart, that is colored in bits. Now, specifically in this video, we're talking about centers, but it also applies to gates and channels, right? But let's look at the centers, those 9 shapes. Where they are colored in human design, we call it defined, you are sending out energy into the world. You are the yang, the masculine, the sending, the outward projection of energy. Where you have white in your chart, officially we call it undefined or open, depending on the exact configuration. But if it's white, it means you are receiving information from the people around you. Very yin, receiving, receiving, receiving. Now, each of those centers has a different quality of energy. I'm not going to run into all 9 of those. Run through all 9 of those, we'd be here for hours. I did a course actually on Learn About the Energy Centers. I'll make sure I put a link in the video description if you know that you would like to understand the centers better and you particularly like the way I teach. But let's come back to this point of receiving. So if you have way more white centers than you have defined or colored in centers, you are receiving a lot of energy from a lot of people. And the number one thing I want you to be aware of is openness does not equal brokenness. You're not broken. There's nothing missing. There's nothing wrong. You are designed in this incarnation. My belief is that we chose to be here. So if you share that belief with me, that in this life you said, hey, give me all the experiences of receiving all of these different ways that I can experience this energy so I can become really wise in this area. So if you have a lot of openness, you ask to be really wise in this life. But I recognize it takes a bit of work to get there. So how do you navigate that? So one, openness does not equal brokenness. There's nothing missing. There's nothing you need to fix or change. It's about being aware that you are receiving energy from other people and then going, okay, if I'm receiving energy from other people, what do I want to do with that? Let's use the example of the undefined solar plexus. So that is the triangle in the bottom right of the chart. If that is white, then you're what I would call an emotional empath, right? And that's about half the population. And a lot of people who identify as highly sensitive people, not everyone, but a lot, will have this center undefined or white. And the particular quality of the solar plexus is a lot of the emotional energy, right? So you could walk into a room blindfolded where everyone is silent and you'll have no clues from hearing. You won't be able to see any body language. And if somebody is really angry, you'll be able to feel it. Or if they're really happy, or if they're really sad, or if they're really frustrated, or whatever, right? So you will be able to feel that just from a vibe perspective, right? You don't even need any sort of visual or other sensory clues to pick it up. So the trick with all of these centers is to recognize, one, maybe this isn't mine. And two, if it isn't mine, well, it's not my responsibility. And then it is much easier to let it, when you notice it in you, to then let it go. Because it's not yours to carry. It's not yours to hold. It's not yours to fix. It's not yours to change. It's just for you to observe the energy and let it go. Like a meditation. Notice the thought, let it go. Notice the anger, let it go, right? In this example. So that's one major thing. So you've already got the awareness. Okay, I'm open in this area of my chart. I'm receiving energy from others. Oh, if I'm receiving it, it's not mine to fix or change or carry or hold. I can let it go. And then the third is to take regular, meaningful breaks away from other human beings. You don't have to go on live in an island in the middle of nowhere. Full time, right? But you do need to regularly take breaks from other human beings. You could always take breaks from your pets as well if you just need to like really discharge. But here's the key word that I've just used, discharge. So go hang out in nature. Go put your feet on the earth. Go walk along the beach. Go hug a tree. Go and lay down in the grass, on the grass in a park if you live in a city somewhere. Go and connect with the earth. Give Mama Earth all that energy that is like just too much that you've picked up from all of the humans who are all doing the best that they can and give it to her. She can take all of it. So we have just talked about your nature, your human design. You are one part your nature and you are one part how you've been nurtured in your lifetime. That is all of the good, bad, and otherwise experiences, lessons, beliefs that have been indoctrinated, etc. And the biggest thing that will cause people to feel like they identify as a highly sensitive person is that they have unresolved stuff that they're carrying in their body, or we could say in the field, right? In the energy field, the aura, the biofield, right? This bubble of energy that your body sits within, right? So there's all this stuff sitting in there. Now, This can look like unresolved trauma. You might recognize that you had some shitty experiences in your life, maybe lots, maybe only a few. But even if you don't feel like you feel like, oh yeah, I'm pretty lucky, my life's been pretty good. There can be so many little things, and all it takes is the unresolved thing that just sits in your system, waiting to be like, it's like a task that's uncompleted. Most of this stuff will happen in early childhood, and then that sets up the pattern for the rest of our life. So I'll give you some examples. Let's say that you are 3 and your dog dies, and you've had one or more parents tell you that you should be really brave and like be a brave girl and don't cry. And so you're 3 and your dog dies and you don't cry, you just hold it all in, right? This is a real example I heard the other day from a 3-year-old. I was really brave and I didn't cry when the dog died. However, what happens is that stuff sits as an unresolved task in your system, and that is what is then sitting there waiting to be triggered by life. People will come to you and unconsciously, without realizing they're doing it, do things to poke those unresolved experiences so that you can heal them. But that causes you to feel even more sensitive to people. And the more of these unresolved tasks you have, this unresolved, what it is unexpressed emotion, right? Feeling a loss, experiencing a loss, but not crying, right? I'll give you another example. Let's say you're 5 and you're learning how to ride a bike and you're afraid, but then you have an older sibling who sees that you're afraid and makes fun of you. And you make a decision within yourself as this 5-year-old. I don't want somebody to make fun of me. I don't want my older brother, let's say, to make fun of me because that feels bad. So I'm just not going to show my fear the next time I'm afraid. And so you create this poker face. So you don't make the facial expressions. Every time you're afraid from then, you suppress how you want to express how you're feeling on your face. That gets locked in your face. You don't make the sounds and you don't really let yourself feel the feeling because you're so trying so hard to stuff it down. Unresolved task, unexpressed emotion sits in the system, waiting for other humans to come along and poke it. You feel highly sensitive because you are being poked by life all the time. Because you're afraid and you didn't feel like it was safe to express your fear. I'll give you one more example. Let's say here in Australia, and I know in other parts of the world, it was really common when I'm 44. So in my childhood, my parents, bless them, who were doing the best that they knew how, and they thought it was the right thing to do. They thought that disciplining us by smacking us, I think in the US you call it spanking, right? So like a smack to the bum, right? Because there's a lot of flesh there, and the idea was it's supposed to just be a shock that says that was naughty, don't do it again. However, you as a human being are supposed to protect your body, right? It is normal when we are hit in any way or our body is touched in any way that we don't like, it is normal for us to get angry. So I remember when it must have been about 10. It was the very last time my mother ever smacked me. And I was finally big enough that I felt brave enough to express my anger. And she must have been smacking me for, you know, a long time. And I remember allowing the look of anger that I felt to express on my face. She took one look at my face and she never hit me again, right? Because she realized, okay, this form of discipline isn't going to work anymore. I have to do it a different way. Because she wasn't willing to override the fact that she could see she was making her daughter angry. Prior to that, I had been stuffing down my anger because I was so afraid because mum or dad or both were so much bigger than me, right? So this is normal. So if you're a person of my generation who is smacked or spanked or, heaven forbid, like disciplined much more harshly, it is guaranteed that unless you have done a whole lot of work to safely work through your anger without hurting anybody else, but finding a way to safely feel it and express it and let it out, it is all still stuck in there because a 2-year-old can't fight back when it comes to or a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old can't fight back when it comes to a full-size adult, right? So it's normal for the anger to be suppressed. Task unfinished, unresolved emotion, waiting there for life to poke it so that you can heal it. But it means that you're feeling, if we go back to that question, invaded by everyone else's energy because life, bless it, is trying to come along and try and help you heal. So what the fuck do you do? What do you do when you realize, oh man, I have all this emotional baggage, I have all this unresolved stuff? Well, it's pretty simple. Not easy, but simple. So you're going to want to learn a deconditioning tool if you don't have it already. Now, deconditioning is a term we use in human design. It refers to a lot of things, but if we talk about what is most helpful for you to be able to navigate the world as a highly sensitive person, a really good, safe deconditioning tool that's really effective is going to help you to safely navigate those emotions and sensations that are in your body, in your field, that are unresolved. So I do this work privately one-on-one with my clients with a tool that I developed called trauma-informed tapping. If you'd like to do that work with me, I'll put a link in the video description. Otherwise, I'll put some videos on screen now that will help you to understand better how to navigate the world as a highly sensitive person. And if you found this video particularly helpful, please share it with somebody you know who may also benefit from this work.